at the very point of your need, God is always with you. I know there's also one song that is common to us, which we sang in our days. In the very thought of Jesus, his presence shall be found. It's as close those as the mention of his name. But at times, when I look at us, and I begin to ask this question in my heart, the question is, do they really realize that God cares? I also know if I ask that question now, it will be very simple for us to say, God cares. But sometimes, when you hear the stories around us, when you visit some of our homes, in very little time of difficulty, you will begin to ask, do they really know that God cares? And if I may ask that question, does God care? Does God care? Does he really care? Fall back on the scriptures. Do they really feel that God cares? Because I can remember in one moment, they said the disciples, the followers of Jesus, those who were selected, that they were traveling in a boat, and in the same boat where they were, that man of miracle who was doing marvelous things was with them. But at the point, there was waves. Just fall back to what the feeling was when they said, carest not that we perish. Try to carefully analyze that question. At that point, like hope was lost. And this man is here and he doesn't even bother. Look at him sleeping. Why are you now sleeping? We know the situation we are. That same question has been existing in the minds of many of us, in our homes, in our situations, in very little difficult times. We begin to feel that God is asleep. Is God really there? Because I will now ask a question. Why do Christians go to soothsayers? You can also remember from the scriptures, the same Saul who was king of Israel, who even said, all the soothsayers, all the diviners, get away from this area. At a point too, also went to seek information from them. I will also ask at that point, does he realize that? Just ask yourself, have there not been Church of God members who, maybe for one little accusation, they will now say, we shall see the head. Let's go to that institute, we will find the head. Check among ourselves. Have there not been some of us, maybe children we are sick, and possibly linger for a little while, and we say, this one, they don't pass the hospital. We don't pray tire. We don't pray tire. At that point, do they really realize that God cares? Do they still build up their faith in that same God that has performed a lot of miracles? Yes, the answer is true that God cares. But in practical situation, do we realize it? Do we hold to Him that God cares? Or we begin to feel that maybe He's now asleep? Careless not that we will perish. Maybe as a student, you find it difficult at times to pass exams, and you think that to cut corners is the best. At that point, do you realize that God cares? Possibly we are looking for job opportunity and it's not coming. And the only one is the one they say, forget your church now. Laban. And you now begin to say, if you can't beat them, you join them. Why have people resorted to do Yahoo, to do ritual, to get money, to sustain life, to sustain their earning? Possibly they tell you that there's no job opportunity. Do they also feel that God cares in their situation? Or some of us, we are married for a few years, we don't have a child. The next other moment, we think of other alternatives outside God. At that moment, do we also feel that God cares? I want you to look at the practical situation that make people who are called Church of God members to now feel that, but we don't try now.